My name is Ava Sinclair. I'm 28, and I built my life the boring way, line by line, bug by bug, bug, week after week. Northern California isn't kind to dreamers unless they can also code or sell a dream to someone who can. I coded. 70-hour weeks at a startup that went public, then quiet, unromantic years of living small. Roommates, meal prep, secondhand furniture. That's how I ended up with a 4-bedroom house with a pool and a tired gazebo, the one place in the world that feels fully earned. My younger brother, Michael, is 3 years and several lifetimes behind me. He dropped out twice, wore charm like a cologne, and collected second chances the way some people collect parking tickets. A lot, with no intention of paying them. My parents, Robert and Patricia, never saw a red flag they couldn't iron flat. In our family, Michael was the dazzling project that would surely take off any minute now, and I was the reliable operating system that didn't need attention until something crashed. When Michael announced his engagement to Jennifer after 8 months of dating, the room clapped like a sitcom audience. I smiled because that's what we do in this family when the spotlight finds Michael. Dinner at my parents' place turned into a venue hunt. It took less than 2 minutes for my mother to say, with that bright choreographed voice, "Ava has the perfect backyard." I nearly inhaled my water. "Mom, my house isn't a wedding venue," my father finished. "But family helps family. All that space shouldn't go to waste." Michael slid into the pause, all boyish grin and earnest eyes. "It would mean everything to us, Ava. Venue prices are ridiculous. Jen's always dreamed of a garden wedding." Jennifer nodded, calculating already. "We toured a few places, 15 grand for just the space. Your backyard is nicer." I wanted to refuse, but 28 years of training is hard to unlearn. Every gathering since I closed on my house came with gentle reminders about sharing and gratitude and how it must be lonely, all that space. I bought time. I need to think. I lasted 3 weeks. Guilt is a slow drip. It accumulates. Daily calls from my mother about unity and memories. Texts from Michael. "You're our only hope for making Jen's dream real." Aunts chimed in. Even cousins who barely speak to me had opinions about my responsibility. "Fine," I told Michael on yet another guilt-soaked call. "You can use the backyard. Conditions. You handle setup and cleanup. Any damage is paid immediately. Inside access is limited to 2 bathrooms. Reception ends by 10 p.m. Max 75 guests." "Anything," he said quickly, too quickly. "You're the best." That should have been my first red flag. My second arrived in athleisure. Jennifer started appearing at my house uninvited, phone out, filming my hedges like they were misbehaving. "Don't you think the gazebo needs repainting?" she asked, as if she were offering to do it herself. "It doesn't," I said. And no. She pivoted to the pool deck. "A new surface would photograph better." "No." "Lighting? For ambiance?" "No." Each no was followed by a phone call from my mother asking why I was ruining a bride's special day. I learned that in some families, boundaries aren't boundaries. They're invitations to escalate. 2 months out, I came home from a business trip and found Michael and Jennifer in my yard with a contractor and a wedding planner I'd never met. "What is this?" I asked. Michael gave me that sheepish half smile that used to get him out of trouble with teachers. "Just estimates. We'll cover it." "For what?" "Minor improvements." The contractor gestured at my pool. "A temporary dance floor over the water." "Absolutely not," I said. "Everyone out." The contractor and planner left fast. Michael and Jennifer stayed long enough for Jennifer to accuse me of being unreasonable, which in our family is code for not giving Michael what he wants. That night, the phone lit up with my mother in tears. I was humiliating her son in front of professionals. Did I understand their stress? My therapist, who has a front row seat to my family dynamics, reminded me that boundaries are not cruelty. Knowing that and feeling that are different muscles. 6 weeks out, my guest cap of 75 somehow grew to 150. "We can't uninvite family," Michael said. "Jen's cousin already bought a ticket." I negotiated it down to 100 and required a liability policy, plus a signed contract with every rule spelled out. 3 weeks before the wedding, I arrived early to Sunday dinner, sleeves rolled, ready to chop vegetables. From the kitchen, I heard Jennifer in the living room, her voice syrupy with certainty. "After the honeymoon, we'll already be settled. The timing is perfect." "You sure Ava won't freak?" Michael asked. Your parents will handle her. It's temporary. 6 months, maybe a year. The master bedroom is incredible. I can't wait to redecorate. Cold slid under my ribs. I walked in. What are you talking about? They froze. Michael tried to laugh. We were just planning to move into your place. You were what? My mother swept in through the garage door just then, as if prompted. What's all the shouting? Michael and Jennifer, I said evenly, apparently believe they're moving into my house. Patricia's face lit up like a Christmas display. Oh, that's wonderful. You have 4 bedrooms, Ava, and you're just one person. We detonated in place. My parents called me selfish. Michael lied and claimed I'd offered. Jennifer cried and talked about decent places being out of reach. I said clearly, no one is moving into my house, under no circumstances. The room fell quiet. Then maybe we should reconsider the venue, I added. Silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's recoil. The next 2 weeks were a cold war. Little communication, plenty of passive-aggressive texts, and a chorus of family values voicemails from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Then my neighbor Nancy caught me at the mailbox. I'm excited about your basement conversion. Michael said you're making them an apartment. I saw red. I called Michael. Explain. Just gathering information. For the future. What future? Jennifer's pregnant. The words hit like a staged gasp. I felt the calm that comes before I stop negotiating. Congratulations, I said. You're still not moving in. How can you be so heartless? Your niece or nephew needs a stable home. Then be a stable home. I hung up. Within 48 hours, my lawyer drafted a letter stating Michael and Jennifer were not tenants, had no claim to residency, and would be trespassing if they attempted to stay past the reception's end time. I installed exterior cameras and changed my locks. The family reaction turned nuclear. My phone a slot machine of disappointment, threats, and scripture cherry-picked for obedience. My therapist told me something I wrote down and taped inside the pantry where no one would see it. Love without boundaries is not love, it's access. The week of the wedding, I tightened everything. I wanted documentation for every conversation and a signature for every promise. Michael finally sent an insurance policy, $1 million in coverage, but the contract had been altered. Where reception ends at 10 p.m., it now read at a reasonable hour. Where maximum 100 guests, it now read approximately 100. I called him. Send the original, unaltered contract signed, or find another venue. You're being a dictator. I'm being a property owner. 2 hours later, Jennifer called with sobs that felt practiced. I'm pregnant and stressed. My grandmother is flying in at 82. This might be her last family event. How can you do this to us? I'm not doing anything to you. I offered a venue under clear terms. Either honor them or make other plans. She hung up. At 11 p.m., Michael sent the correctly signed contract and a written statement that they would not attempt to move in. Then he sent a group text to the extended family painting me as a property-obsessed villain. I replied in the same thread with math, terms, and facts. The venue cost I was saving them, the liability I was assuming, the rules we agreed on. Half the family rallied to me. The other half doubled down on the myth of my selfishness. I went to bed to the soft rustle of pool water and wind in the hedges. The cameras blinked their red reassurance. My house, my lines. Tomorrow, a wedding. After that, a reckoning. The morning of the wedding arrived crisp and deceptively serene, the kind of blue California sky that makes you believe in new beginnings. I brewed coffee strong enough to file a complaint and opened the binder on my kitchen counter, the one with tabs for vendors, insurance, contract, and emergency. My house was calm, the way a stage is calm before actors rush in with their lines and old grudges. By 7 o'clock a.m., the trucks rolled up. Florals, rentals, catering. A slim man with a clipboard who introduced himself as the day of coordinator and asked for the bridal suite. I pointed to the printed rules on the door and the 2 guest bathrooms I designated. He smiled politely, then tried to step around me as if the paper were a suggestion. It set the tone for the day. My phone buzzed. 2 off-duty officers I'd hired confirming arrival at 3:02 p.m. They were professionals, neutral faces, clear instructions, and no emotional history with anyone I share a last name with. I walked the yard, taking quiet inventory. Gazebo intact, pool clear, power cables taped down, cameras angled properly. I breathed. Boundaries, not barricades, I reminded myself. Then I checked the back gate and found a rented archway being muscled through by 3 guys who assured me the The bride said it's fine. I assured them it wasn't and redirected them to the front where the coordinator could consult the contract like everyone else. At 9, an unfamiliar woman in a satin robe and lashes the size of optimism tried to float into my master bedroom with a rolling suitcase. Hair and makeup, she sang. My friend Sarah, whom I'd asked to swing by for support, stepped forward with a smile and stepped into her path with steel. Preparation is at the hotel, the bride confirmed. The robe fluttered, the lashes narrowed, and then she retreated to make a call. 10 minutes later, my mother's voice rang through my phone like a fire alarm. Ava, let them use one little room. Don't be rigid. They have a hotel room for that, I said. We've had this conversation. You're making memories brittle, she snapped and hung up. Noon brought the chair crisis. I counted 150 being unfolded across the lawn, an acre of white seats multiplying like guilt. The rental foreman shrugged and showed me the order. 150, signed by Michael. I pointed to the contract printed in bold. 100 max. 50 chairs went back on the truck while the crew muttered about petty rules and sisters with sticks, if you know what I mean. I did not respond. Sarah did, by counting aloud, clear enough for the foreman and my cameras to hear. At 2, Michael arrived with his groomsmen, all bright boutonnieres and louder jokes. He tried to toss an arm around me as though the week had been a misunderstanding. Come on, sis. A few extra chairs for love. What's love without seats? Love doesn't need 50 more chairs, I said. A crowd does. He grinned, then saw the officers doing a perimeter check and scowled. Really? Cops at my wedding? Security, I corrected. For the venue. Which is your house, he said pointedly. Which is the venue, I repeated. He turned away before I could see the anger finish forming. By 3, the officers were stationed at the gate with a printed guest list and an RSVP cross-check. David, Sarah's husband, arrived with iced coffees and the kind of low, steady humor that sandbags a flood. He took the role of liaison, nice enough for small talk, firm enough to end it. The day of coordinator made one last attempt to upgrade reasonable hour into the contract by claiming that's what he had on file. I handed him the signed, unaltered copy and watched understanding curdle behind his smile. Guests began to arrive at 4, drifting like petals, dressed in hope and perfume. The lawn looked beautiful, because it always looked beautiful when left alone. The officers checked names, and by 4:45, they'd already turned away 12 people who never RSVP'd, including 2 of Jennifer's college friends, who tried to argue that family never turns people away. I didn't mention that not being family was the easier problem to solve. The ceremony at 5 was, I will admit, stunning. A breeze eased the heat off, and the light filtered through the hedges as if it had RSVP'd as well. Jennifer walked down the aisle radiant, Michael cried, and for a brief hour the friction receded, even my body unclenched. I wanted them to have this, beauty that belonged to the moment, not to a plan to take my house. Then the reception started. At 6:10, a van pulled halfway up my drive and 2 men unloaded slick black cases like they were diffusing boredom. A DJ, complete with subwoofers that looked like they had litigation experience. I intercepted them. No amplified system, acoustic only. The shorter one nodded toward the patio. Groom upgraded, big night. The officers stepped in, diplomatic but immovable. No amplified system, one repeated, tapping the contract. The DJ left fuming, and 15 minutes later, the acoustic guitarist returned, looking sheepishly triumphant. Whispers rose like mist around me. She's being ridiculous, an aunt declared. It's her house, a cousin replied. Still, the aunt sniffed, hospitality has a volume knob. At 7:30, the coordinator asked to set up a cake table inside because of a wind pattern, and I suggested a less poetic solution beneath the gazebo. He tried again at 7:45 with a private moment for the bride in my living room, which earned a visible no from both officers before I had to speak. At 8, I took 3 slow laps through the crowd, greeting people who wanted me to be softer, and meeting eyes with those who were grateful I wasn't. Jennifer's grandmother, the 82-year-old Ohio pilgrim, took my hand with surprising strength. This is a beautiful place, she whispered. Thank you for sharing it. I meant it when I said, You're welcome. Then she leaned closer, conspiratorial. And you're so generous to let them move into your guest house. Young couples need a start. The pool's surface went dull, the music thinned. I'm sorry? I asked softly. Oh, yes, she said, as if we were exchanging recipes. She told us all about your offer. A year, maybe less. She patted my fingers. You're an angel. I excused myself, found David, and asked him to circulate. Ask what they've heard about Michael and Jennifer's housing. He and Sarah disappeared into the drift. When they returned, their eyes said everything. Guest house, David reported. Basement apartment, Sarah added. One cousin claims you offered the master while you take a smaller room. Stories don't match, but the end state is the same. I felt the particular nausea of being rewritten in real time. At 9:00 p.m., the coordinator tried one last negotiation. We're running behind, he said with a sad smile. We'll need an extra hour to honor the speeches. Speeches end at 9:30, I said. Reception ends at 10. He looked at me the way people look at locked doors they'd assumed were ornamental. He moved on. At 9:25, I took the mic, acoustic, soft as a warning, and thanked everyone for respecting the neighborhood ordinance and my home. We'll begin closing at 9:55. Last song at 9:50. Please say your goodbyes. A pocket of relatives groaned loud enough to land on video. My mother shook her head in theatrical sorrow. Michael laughed like I'd told a joke, then realized I hadn't. At 9:45, Jennifer approached with a smile brittle as spun sugar. Could we have 15 more minutes? Just for first dance with my dad. He's emotional. You had your first dance at 8:40, I said. I watched it. This is different, she said, eyes shining with the kind of tears that expect open doors. The answer is no, I said, kind and final. She turned without speaking, and the sound of her heels on the stones was louder than the guitar. At 9:55, I cut power to the patio string lights and the gazebo fairy lights, exactly as the contract stated I could. Stars arrived to do what people wouldn't. The guitarist plucked a gentle final chord. The officers began guiding guests to the gate with the practiced warmth of flight attendants during an on-time landing. Most left with murmurs, a few left with declarations. Michael found me at 10:10 by the pool, rage flush high on his cheeks, tie crooked. You're unbelievable, he hissed. It's my wedding. It's my home, I said. Jennifer joined him, eyes glossy, voice low. You humiliated us. We will remember this. I will too, I said, for very different reasons. Cleanup crews worked under portable work lights until midnight. I supervised without interfering, a quiet metronome counting time until the last rental truck door clanged shut. Damages were blessedly minimal. 2 chair scrapes on the deck, a cracked planter. I photographed everything and added it to the binder. David and Sarah stayed to the end, and when the trucks left and the yard exhaled, Sarah hugged me. You did exactly what you said you'd do, she whispered. That's rare. I stood alone by the pool after they drove off. The house reflected back at me, still mine. The cameras blinked red. The hedges rustled. Somewhere out on the road, a car door slammed. Ordinary sound. Ordinary night. Inside my chest, something unclenched further, then warned me not to relax too soon. Because all night I'd been hearing versions of a story I never told. Ava is letting them move in. Stories like that don't end with cake. They end with trucks. 2 weeks after the wedding, the flowers had wilted, but the rumors hadn't. My phone still buzzed with passive-aggressive texts, half of them pretending to be checking in, the other half demanding apologies I didn't owe. I spent most of my days buried in work, nights quiet again, except for the hum of the pool pump and the distant echo of neighbors living uncomplicated lives. Then came the Sunday U-Haul. The cameras picked it up first. A white truck turning into my driveway like it belonged here. I recognized Michael's posture before the motion alert even pinged my phone. Jennifer was beside him, radiant again, this time in a maternity dress that looked suspiciously performative. Behind them came another car, Jennifer's parents, smiling as if they were arriving for brunch instead of a boundary violation. I met them at the door, binder in hand, heart steady. You're not supposed to be here. Michael gestured toward the truck. We just got back from our honeymoon. Thought we'd get settled before the week starts. Settled where? I asked. In our rooms, he said. You know, the guest house. There is no hour, I interrupted, and there is no guest house. Jennifer's mother, Linda, stepped forward like a diplomat on a doomed mission. Ava, Surely you're not going to turn away a pregnant woman and your own brother. Family means compassion. It also means accountability, I said. And since you brought up pregnancy, I'd like to see the medical documentation before anyone uses that word as leverage again. Linda gasped. Jennifer's eyes widened. Michael muttered something about me losing my mind. My lawyer, Thomas, stepped from behind me then. Gray suit, calm expression, legal pad tucked like a weapon. Mr. Sinclair, Mrs. Sinclair, he began, addressing Jennifer's parents. This property is privately owned. You are currently trespassing. Here's the written notice clarifying residency rights. There are none. Jennifer's father bristled. This is insane. What's insane, Thomas said evenly, is attempting to establish tenancy by ambush. That's when my parents arrived. Because of course they did. They must have been called from the car. My mother was already crying before she reached the porch. Ava, stop this. You're humiliating us. They have nowhere to go. They had plenty of time to find somewhere, I said. I made the boundaries clear months ago. My father's voice dropped low. You could discuss this inside, privately. No, I said. We've done private. It turns into pressure. This stays public. The next 2 hours were a slow-motion implosion. Jennifer cried. Michael alternated between shouting and sulking. My parents begged, lectured, accused. The neighbors came out one by one, watching like it was a matinee. When words ran out, I called the police, not as drama, but as punctuation. The officers arrived, took one look at Thomas's paperwork, and informed Michael that he was in violation of a trespass order. The U-Haul reversed down the drive. My mother screamed my name as if she could reverse time. I didn't answer. That night, the quiet felt earned. But peace doesn't last when people need a villain. Within 48 hours, a Facebook post appeared from Michael. My sister made us homeless. Jennifer's stress is affecting the baby. Please pray for us. The post spread like a stain. Old friends messaged condolences. Strangers sent hate. Someone mailed a dead rat in a shoebox with a note. Heartless scum. I sat at my desk, scrolling through the chaos, then opened my binder. Every email, every text, every contract. I organized them by date, attached screenshots, and titled the document "The Truth About the Wedding." Then I posted it publicly, with receipts. The final exhibit was the wedding footage. The cameras I'd installed had captured everything. Jennifer laughing with her bridesmaids near the gazebo, saying, I'm not pregnant yet, but once we're in, it'll be harder for Ava to kick us out. It took 20 minutes for the comments to flip. By nightfall, half the family had gone silent. The other half had gone nuclear. My parents called, not to apologize, but to scold. You didn't need to embarrass them, my mother hissed. We could have handled it quietly. You've been handling it quietly for 25 years, I said. How's that working out? The next week became an avalanche of confessions. My cousin Catherine admitted Michael borrowed $5,000 for the wedding and never paid it back. My uncle revealed a $12,000 investment gone missing 3 years ago. Even Jennifer's cousin sent a message. Jennifer had pulled a similar move in college, moving in temporarily with a roommate and refusing to leave for 8 months until legally evicted. The pattern was clear. The sympathy wasn't. My parents doubled down, housing Michael and Jennifer themselves. That experiment lasted 1 week. They tried to redecorate my parents' master bedroom, and when caught, Jennifer blamed hormones. Then she sold my mother's jewelry online to fund their new start. They were out by Friday. Word traveled fast. The golden boy and his wife had burned every bridge in a single match. They moved to Arizona to live with Jennifer's parents, apparently already causing trouble there too. As for me, I rebuilt my piece. I upgraded the security system, blocked half the family, and learned to love silence again. The cameras still blinked red at night, not out of paranoia, but promise. I kept therapy appointments religiously. My therapist smiled when I told her how it ended. Closure isn't always forgiveness, she said. Sometimes it's documentation. She was right. A few months later, I started seeing Dylan, a man who listened more than he spoke and laughed the first time he saw my binder. You keep records? He teased. I keep peace, I said. He nodded. Good. Then maybe I'll earn a tab someday. He did. Looking back, I realized something. I wish someone had told me years ago. You can love your family and still lock your door. You can offer grace without surrender. You can say no and still sleep well. For anyone stuck in the cycle I lived through, here's what I learned. Trust your gut. When something feels off, it is. Document everything. Facts don't lie even when people do. Get legal help early. Waiting costs peace. No is a complete sentence. Family isn't a hall pass for manipulation. The house is quiet now. The pool glows soft blue at night, a mirror without intrusions. The cameras blink, the hedges whisper, and sometimes, when I stand in the doorway, I remember how it felt the day I almost lost it all to family. Never again. Because my name is Ava Sinclair, and this house isn't just where I live, it's proof that boundaries can save your life.